How we doing, people? Can you bloody hear me? Premier League's back. Lord. Wonderful time to be alive. Right. Give me some yeses, say hello, and we will begin this bad boy and dive into a lot of footballing chat. Okay, let's do it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel and the Fallout. The aim is to do this every single Monday around 1:30. So if you're new to the channel, do consider by the end of it, if you have enjoyed it, hitting the subscribe button and joining me each week, because I did a phone in the other week as well, and I've been enjoying doing live stuff a lot at the moment recently. So if you don't want to miss it and you don't want to miss out on the chat and get involved, then you hit the notification bell and then you can crack on with me. Someone in the chat already, Liam Burns, says, please can Palace get some credit, James? Broadcasters seemed to only care about the Spurs perspective. Don't worry, bro. I've got you. I've got you covered. We're talking about Palace. We're going to chat about Spurs, Chelsea, Villa, Arsenal. Importantly, as I said from the video title, Man United and Ronaldo'S debut and how that could affect Paul Pogba, both in a good way for Man United, possibly a bad way as well. It's something that can't be decided right now, but I just want to put a question out to you guys and see if it will always benefit Man United, the way that they played and the way that Ronaldo plays and how that affects Paul Pogba. So stick around, we'll be diving into that. Arsenal getting the first victory, how they shaped up. Man United, as we just said, Newcastle and how they were struggling a little bit. Chatting about Brentford, who I'm starting to worry about a little bit, and we'll dive into that. And Liverpool as well. And of course, I mean, I won't touch on it at the time, but of course, gutting for Harvey Elliott. I think he's been one of the standout players so far in the Premier League season. So for him to for that to happen to him is just, it's disgusting, really. So for him, he needs to just take a minute and crack on with the recovery, because it's super, super sad to see that kind of stuff. And the iPad's out. Hello, Allcott's got a pencil. So we'll be diving into like average positions and all of those bits and pieces. But as promised, Palace. Let's talk Palace. Let's kick off with Palace. Why not? Why bloody not? Am I right? Because Palace are good. Palace have, week on week, have been getting better and better. And there's a few people that I want to kind of talk about when it comes to Palace over the weekend. First of all, we can kind of dive into the average positions maybe of both teams. Because I think, just to touch on Spurs briefly, there's a problem here in terms of the 4-4-2 diamond. Now, they had a man sent off, and so that's obviously going to play a part in these kind of things. But Palace were better. And if you look at the average positions, what you can really see, first of all, when it comes to Spurs, is how isolated the Spurs fullbacks were. Hopefully I can be able to mark it here, and there, as our boy Jamie Carragher would say. And the fact that they were kind of playing so narrow, it confused me a little bit, especially when you know how strong the wing play of Crystal Palace is going to be. So for them to play this way is interesting. I think part of it as well comes down to that probably gets highlighted more so when you end up having a man down. But it was already there. And I think how many was it? Was like all the 8 matches played on Saturday, that's it. There are only 2 goals scored before half time. And I wonder if that was the international break. I wonder if that played a part in it. But you can see, I think the concern for Spurs fans is the fact that they're going to look to play like they did, well, Espirito Santo's team did at Wolves, where they're going to try and create some high-quality chances and just hope that Harry Kane is going to be quality enough to take them. But in a home game, even with 10 men, for Harry Kane to be that far away from goal is very, very worrying. And you're also missing out on any of those runners in behind, which you normally would see. You would see Kane actually dropping deeper than the furthest forward player, be it Son or anyone else. So that's got to be a massive, massive concern for them. But we're not going to focus on them for too long, because we want to talk about Crystal Palace, because they deserve the credit. And Crystal Palace looked really, really good in this game. And Zaha in particular was absolutely fantastic and completely bullied. I've gone mad. What was his name? Royale, wasn't it? Emerton Royale, yeah. Absolutely bullied him. And the way he did it was interesting as well. Because, look, the XG for Palace was 3 to Spurs is 0.07. That's according to FootMob. Palace had 18 shots to Spurs is 2. whilst Palace also had 410 accurate passes compared to Spurs' 231. I know, 10 men, I get it, but Palace deserve the credit. They really, really do deserve the credit. And Zaha, I just didn't really understand the setup from Spurs in terms of looking to stop him, because he had 6 successful dribbles, and he was able to pin Emerson. Am I getting his name wrong? Emerson. That's right. Sorry, Emerson. He was able to just sort of pin him and then turn him around. And I've seen it before with the great Bright Say Samuel at Queen's Park Rangers. But it's so dangerous if you're able to get to him with his back to goal, because he's going to end up hurting you in a big, big way. Also, I wanted to touch on the fact that here's Zaha. Let's have a look at his heat map. With Zaha, come on. There you go. Just absolutely bullying him down that left-hand side. The successful dribbles that we were talking about as well. Also, Conor Gallagher, who I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, really is that box-to-box midfielder for them, but also just had real quality about him as well. He amassed an XG of 1.38 in this game. He registered an assist and 6 shots. You know, this is up against Spurs. This is great for them. I think also the thing I really love about him, one, he's absolutely everywhere. I mean, this highlights that they had a lot more of the ball than they normally maybe do against a team like Spurs. Although, is it a team like Spurs? Are they what you would imagine? Seems like they're quite structured and showed that they had enough time on the ball for Gallagher to sort of pick up the different spots that he wanted to be in and get on the ball, basically. My pen's gone funny. It's annoying. But what was great with him as well was that he made 7 recoveries against Spurs, which it shows that he's not really like many midfielders, really. Like, desperate for a goal, desperate to make tackles, real tenacity about the way that he plays. Palace were great. Brilliant stuff. They should be really happy about that. Let's move on to Chelsea versus Aston Villa, because like I said, the XG in that Palace-Spurs game makes it undoubted that they obviously deserve the victory. And that kind of gives them their first victory and puts them up into 11th place now, which is huge for them. You know, just to get away from it, a bit of breathing space. And now, whereas previously it would have been like, oh, Vieira still hasn't done it. He's now got a bit of a footing here where, you know, have they only lost 1 game? Yeah, they've only lost 1 game. And that was against, a Chelsea team that is tearing it up. On to Chelsea. Chelsea beat Aston Villa 3-0. Couple of interesting things here. First of all, Mendy was pretty special in this game. You know, when you look at the XG of this one, 1.29 XG to Chelsea and 1.3 to Aston Villa. And I know people get a bit funny about XG, but the point of it as well, it highlights the quality that you have at times. You know, when you're not totally dominating a game, the fact that you've got Lukaku at one end and you've got Mendy at the other, who can win you games, keep chances out that are high XG, and then the opposite down the other end with Lukaku, it's massive for them, and it's what could take them to the title. I mean, let's have a look at Mendy in particular. Mendy, 6 shots. I mean, his heat map obviously doesn't matter, but the 6 shots that he saved, the 6 saves that he made were all from inside the box. Really tough chances, unbelievable saves, and he takes them to another level. You know, if you think of the weaknesses for Chelsea, it was at both ends, wasn't it? It was the goalkeeper in Kepa, and down the other end, it was Werner not taking his chances or not having that striker who's going to do it. But with Lukaku, 2 goals, and what's amazing for me with this is just the lack of touches that he's having, right? 25 touches. 25 touches, and he's still banging in 2 goals. You know, the second one as well is an absolute screamer from him as well. I thought he was fantastic. His XG on the day was 0.59. So this is my point, taking the chances that, that aren't truly there. You know, he's just going and doing it himself. It's very, very impressive. One less impressive performance on the day, Saul Niguez, or should we just say Saul, had a stinker of a game. Absolute stinker of a game. And I can show you with the average positions on these guys is the difference that he was playing, as you can see here, number 17. He was kind of sitting there on that right-hand side, and he had an absolute torrid time because the 2 midfielders for Aston Villa, Ramsey and McGinn, I think it was a very clear ploy. Let's get at him. Let's see if he is kind of pressure-proof. And he really, really struggled, was dispossessed 3 times during the game, just looked really, really poor. I think his passing stats were really poor as well. Where is it? accurate passes, 81%. For that guy who's, holding midfielder, you should be having the ball quite a lot. Should be a lot better than that. And you saw the difference when Jorginho came on, because if I put the substitutions here, you can see. So I'll just change that again just so you see it. Number 5 swaps in for him. It's all kind of tight and congested in there because they're trying to help him out because he was struggling with the sort of drive in transition from Aston Villa, which was quite impressive, to be honest. But once it changed, it allows everyone to spread out because there's more control on the ball, because Jorginho kind of knew what he was doing and was able to get the ball to Lukaku better as well. And again, it's the same when it comes to his passing stats as well. That sort of metronome there. This is interesting as well, actually, in terms of the heat maps. Jorginho kind of potting about in different places, just getting on the ball, dominating, 38 touches, which only a few more, but 93.3% passing completion, just better on the ball all round. I think that for Saul, it was a bit of a baptism of fire. And like I said, if you have a look at his heat map, you can see he's just kind of just stuck there, just going, oh, just panicking a little bit. Can we praise Kovacic? Certainly, we can praise Kovacic, able to kind of get forward a little bit more, which was impressive from him. Doesn't score that many. He is very underrated, actually, Kovacic. But I think that was important to highlight this kind of difference between the two. And if you think that in terms of XG in the second half, only 0.30 in the second half just meant that they were much stronger after all of that. Arsenal. Let's talk Arsenal. How did we feel about Arsenal? If anyone saw the game, how would they feel about the kind of changes that were made? And by the way, if you could hit like on the stream, if you are enjoying it, that would massively help the video. It only takes you a second, doesn't it? So Arsenal, first goal in 5 hours of play. The most shots Arsenal have had in a match since December 2017. The best 10 or 14 days in my professional career, said Arteta, which I'm not sure about that. But do you know what? His pre-match interviews are brilliant. It's the post-match when it's not kind of worked out. And importantly, that word XG again, creating 3.5 XG against Norwich's 0.61. A couple of things I really liked from this was, the setup of the team. I think it felt a lot more... It felt more like people weren't covering for others. People were playing in the positions that they want to play. I can show you it here. That elbow back four, I liked it. I like it a lot. Let's show you it here. Arsenal, Norwich, lineups, average positions. What you can see here is, Tomiyasu, who played his first game for the club, was good. His duels were pretty good in this game as well, actually. Bring it forward. Hopefully, then I can write on it. Can I write on it? Sure, we can. There it is. Let's do it. So Tomiyasu. So what I mean by elbow is like that's your kind of back four, and Tierney's able to get a lot further forward. Like normally with a different kind of left back, they'd be there, but with Tierney, you want to be able to kind of get him as forward as possible. And so having Tomiyasu, who can play as a right-sided centre back or as a right back, it's just a lot more. It's just a lot more kind of fitting for the personnel that they've got. And he was great. I think his aerial duels, he won a hell of a lot of aerial duels. Let me just find it here. Where was he? 3 out of his 5 ground duels, 7 out of his 8 aerial duels, which is a really, really impressive start from him. And it just gives him that freedom to allow Tierney to get forward. The other 2 people I wanted to concentrate on were Lukaku and Maitland-Niles. Now, this is something that I've kind of been screaming about for a while, that you guys know I'm a bit funny with Xhaka. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about him. And the reason for that is because he's kind of filling in for Tierney in that area here sometimes. But actually what I'd rather have is people with more mobility who can kind of play midfield on the front foot. And that's what you're able to get with Maitland-Niles and Lukaku in this game. Because everyone's able to kind of do what they were good at. You know, Maitland-Niles and Lukaku. Lukaku actually sort of dug a bit of a hole, actually. A bit more than Maitland-Niles. But Maitland-Niles has obviously had a sort of tough time of it recently. Shows that Lukaku can kind of do that role at the base of this midfield and sit there and truly sit there and play that sort of sitting role. But we know he's got the energy to be box to box as well. So you've kind of got someone who's a bit more complete. Whereas Xhaka's always going to just sit there. And I think That's what you need, especially when you've got players like Odegaard who's going to want to come in and get involved with the play. I just think it's going to be really crucial for that to be available to you. And it just felt like it allowed everyone to do what they wanted to do. Maitland Niles I think is real use with that. He, as you can see it here, he gets all over the pitch. He really, really does. He gets all over the pitch. 71 touches, passing so. Let's have a look at his tackles. I haven't even looked at this, to be honest. Oh, no tackles, to be fair to him. But clearances 1, interceptions 1. So I just think I think the thing with this is that, when you have 30 shots, you're going to have the ball a lot more. But it's allowing yourselves to kind of play on the front foot. I thought that was a really, really impressive part of it. One question mark for me is Aubameyang. Now, is this good that he's back in that kind of central role? Or is this something to be concerned about? I'd love to let me know in the chat. Just give me a simple answer. Yes, it's a concern, or no, it's not. That for me is, it's very clear movement in terms of what they want him to do, right? But is that enough? Now, we're going to show you Ronaldo in a second. Ronaldo sort of goes around and gets involved a lot more. It seemed here that he was just standing still, waiting for the ball. And maybe that's down to Odegaard having a free role, being able to go wherever he wants to. But it was either that or getting himself in the box. For me, I want a little bit more from my centre forward, especially someone being so central. That might have been down to the fact that Norwich play quite an open back four, so he can basically just occupy 2 centre backs. But that's just a question for people, is that I think sometimes we see Arsenal struggle and Aubameyang not touch the ball enough. And I just wonder if is Aubameyang ever going to work at Arsenal? Is he ever going to work? That feels like a slight concern to me, but at least you had someone playing in centre forward. I do wonder if there's more to be seen of Lacazette, just because it might fit better for the rest of the team. But overall, just what they needed, some shoots of hope there. I guess the one concern is that Pookie was able to kind of basically sort of out-muscle Ben White. The next game is Burnley. So I would keep calm if you're an Arsenal fan. But I guess with this, maybe you can kind of be on the front foot and go and win the game, because I think what will happen with Burnley is they will bypass the midfield, hit those front two, and Gabriel and Ben White going to be good enough. That will be a very, very interesting one to see. We'll see how that one pans out. Right, Man United versus Newcastle United. This was a game where Ronaldo, of course, returned. Has he got the pace anymore? Well, he did hit 20 miles per hour with his sprint for the second goal. I think he's fine. Honestly, think he's fine. Man United set it up in a way that's going to kind of guarantee goals, which I think Man United fans can be really, really excited about. And I think what I wanted to kind of show you was the differences between kind of with Ronaldo and without Ronaldo. And I think the biggest effect, and I say that loosely, I see more so based on last season, is what this means for Paul Pogba. I know it's a snappy title, but actually I think there is something interesting in this, right? So let's dive into it. And let me know what you thought about Ronaldo's debut and the setup that they had. So I think if I go back to kind of last week, maybe I can do that. Hopefully I can. What we see, and maybe I will get this wrong. I might be getting ahead of myself here with the average positions. Is that right? Hang on. Yeah, let's not get too bogged down in this one, I don't think, actually. Yeah, because Pogba actually was playing on the right-hand side in the game against Wolves. What I think is interesting here is Bruno Fernandes's role alongside Ronaldo and how they're going to fit everyone in. Because let's get to the main man himself, Ronaldo. When it comes to Ronaldo and his role in this game, what we do know about him is that he's going to drift over to that left-hand side. We're waiting to see if it would happen, but it certainly did happen. So let's show you that. We zoom in, just give you guys a chance to have a better look at it. Here we go. So what I thought was interesting was, first of all, Bruno and Ronaldo. This could be really nice, these two kind of working together. But also the fact that Ronaldo kind of leads, sort of kind of offsets to the left a little bit. And we know that the way that Man United have generally looked to attack. And last year, I think we saw it in a big way, that it was about this left-hand side. It was all about that. And, if you think of Luke Shaw and how attacking they were playing, how high up he was on the pitch, but also, Wan-Bissaka as well on this other side. It was interesting to see that because, maybe that's down to how negative Newcastle were. But there were a few moments for Newcastle, just to touch on that briefly. One vertical pass, and they were in a couple of times. And you do just wonder if that game might have been a little bit different if Callum Wilson was on the pitch instead of Joe Linton, which I can show you in a second. But what I think is really interesting is the role of Pogba and what he's going to do here. Because he's done this in the last couple of weeks. He did it in the game against Wolves. He did play on that right-hand side. But it looks like this is his role now. He's going to be playing on the right-hand side and allowing those other players, the attacking players, Greenwood having a bit more space to get his shots off, but there will be a very clear focus down this left-hand side. But what it will allow him to do is to pick up the ball. The difference between that and last year with Pogba is the fact that if we go to Man United as a team, he obviously wasn't playing in that role, really, was he? If we go to Man United, let's do it. Hopefully we can do this easily enough. Maybe it might be a tricky one. I'm still getting to grips with it. Here we go. Last year. Are we going to be right? Find out. Trying to find. Forget it. Don't worry. Basically, you guys aren't stupid. You know that Pogba last year, he was playing in that left channel, right? So this year, he's going to be playing on that right-hand side. And the only concern I have with that is that if he's playing in that double pivot, and it looks like he's going to be, what does that mean when you play against good sides? And this will be a decision that he'll need to make. Like previously, we know Paul Pogba has played in he's played in this area of the pitch, and Fernandes has been over here. And you've had a much more central striker. This season, that's not going to happen. There's not enough space. There's not enough people. And unless you decide to play one holding player. And what we can see is that from the two fullbacks positions, you need to create that box. You need to be able to create that box because otherwise you're going to get completely undone. So here's the question for you. I'm worried about what happens when you play a good side. Let's talk Man City, for example. So many teams last year, when you played Man City, in this role, it was McTominay. It was McTominay in this role. It was Fred in the other position, and you were able to kind of deal with this left-hand side of the pitch. With the ball, dominating games against Newcastle, that's fine. I think you can go and dominate these games. The question I have for all of you guys is, will they be susceptible to getting undone down that left-hand side when they come up against a team like Man City, where you've got Silva and Grealish on that left-hand side, Sterling on that left-hand side, all these great players on that left-hand side? There's going to be a lot of pressure. I mean, the great thing is that it's the same with Liverpool. You're allowed pressure points because you've got someone like Varane in there. But for me, Pogba is glorious. I love him. I love the way he's playing. It's so great to watch him. And maybe it's one of those where you just have to be brave and go for it. And I think he'll continue to flourish with the ball because the key passes, and again, in the game at the week, 2 assists, 3 key passes, 129 touches. He's going to thrive. He is going to thrive. But defensively, will they come up against teams that hurt them? That's going to be the question for me, because Ronaldo's on that left-hand side. Fernandes wants to be further up the pitch. We've seen that with all of these bits and pieces here. You can see it right now. So that is the big question for me when it comes to Paul Pogba's role, which I think it feels like it's now set in stone. And I understand why you're putting him there. My concern is, what I can see happening basically is Man United losing a game, it coming from a transition on that left-hand side, because you got Mason Greenwood going, Paul Pogba isn't as good defensively, and the press will have a field day with it. They will have a field day with it. I'm not saying it's fair, and I'm not saying it's not worth the risk, I'm just saying it's something that could happen. Something that could happen. So something to keep an eye out over the coming weeks. Once Man United start playing, those teams that are going to offer a bit more than someone like Newcastle, who I do want to touch on just quickly, just to show you in terms of their role and the fact that if maybe Callum Wilson was playing, you might have had a little bit more support going forward, because those long vertical balls were pretty good for them. What was a little bit strange, I thought, was, first of all, this space here. So much space for them. You've got Ronaldo playing. You've got Bruno Fernandes playing. Why is there a big gap like this? Where's your defensive midfielder sitting in front of the back two? Just seemed very odd to me. Super, super odd to me. And then secondly, Joe Linton. He was so kind of careful about the defensive side of it. You've got someone like Alan St. Maximin here who's just completely isolated. Maybe if you'd had Callum Wilson and St. Maximin playing, you might have had two players up there and might have had a better chance. Of course, there was also a moment with Joe Willock, but I think overall, it's just super, super isolated and quite a disjointed, the midfield. It showed that that they were attempting to counter-attack at times. But Newcastle, it's going to be a very, very, very long season for them. I really do believe that, sadly. Leicester Man City, not a huge amount to say here. It kind of makes my point in terms of, and it's what alerted me to the thing of like Pogba and his role and what that will mean for them. Just was, again, you look at how Man City, and last year when we would do these post-match things and we would look at heat maps and average positions and things like that, it was always the big thing with Man City, time and again, and they've been doing this for a long, long time, is that they have someone like Rodri or whoever just sitting and breaking things up. I don't think Fred's good enough to do that. It might be they're more of a role for Matic. McTominay might be that guy as well. But again, I think if you think about where Pogba's going to play and how open that Man United might be when if they're going for teams, maybe Wan-Bissaka fills in a little bit more. But regardless, I feel like you're able to pop it round someone like Pogba a lot easier on that right-hand side. And I remember in the games how important someone like McTominay was in those games just to deal with this area. So many players you've got to deal with. It's tricky. So that's something they're going to have to keep an eye on. Same with Robertson and Mane, in transition. That's just something to keep an eye out on, guys, I think. Vardy was able to get in behind a decent amount against Man City, but it was it's a champion's performance from Man City, tricky for them. I thought it might have been a draw at the end, but still created 2.74 XG. Only had one big chance, but got the goal, won the game. And from that XG, Bernardo and Grealish being the main guys in that nice little partnership on that left-hand side. So something to keep an eye on. For Leicester City, Vardy was able to get in, had a goal disallowed, which is a bit of a shame for them. And Barnes at the back post as well was pretty good for them as well, but just kind of not enough. And Barnes is one of those he's got a lot going on. I'd love to know what Leicester City fans, let me know what you think about this. Harvey Barnes, he's good and he's great, but is he too good? Do you know what I mean? Is he? And for me, it's always his finishing. He kind of gets there, and then it's a little bit disappointing. I'd love to know what people think about that, Man City fans in particular. Brentford versus Brighton. I just wanted to touch on this because I think there's a lot of FPL managers who've got Ivan Toney in their team, and I've got to be honest, I'm concerned. Because although their XG has actually, I think, been better than every team they've played so far this season, the problem is who's getting those chances. And what this means for Ivan Toney. And I'm going to say something here, and I might be completely wrong, but I'm just going on what I'm seeing at the moment. I don't think Ivan Toney's going to score many goals in this division. With this setup right now. Because Brentford had 7 shots during the match. Only one of them was on target. And he's just too far away from goal. Last year, they were a dominant team in the division, so they're much higher up the pitch. This season, he's just miles away from where you want him to be. And the chances that are falling to Brentford are falling to Mbeumo. Mbeumo he's just not clinical. 3 of the shots fell to Mbeumo. He had an XG of 0.37 for the match. All of his attempts were off target. He had some great moments in it. And I just worry, think about how far away Toney is from the goal. he's playing like a deep lying forward. Yes, he's had 3 key passes in the game, but he needs to be in the box, and he's not. And so he's not going to score goals, and he was a huge part of it. Huge part of it. And, you know, I'm not saying he's not a great goal scorer. He's proven that. The problem is he going to get the opportunities? He's too far away from goal. Oh, he's way too far away from goal. Let me show you. You know, he is that hold-up man. That's fine. But you've got to be getting inside the box, and he's not at all. Let's have a quick look at Mbeumo. You might kind of see it a bit more that he is getting those opportunities, but he's not going to take them. I just don't. You needed, if you're a Brentford fan, you needed Mbeumo to hit the ground running. And what am I doing? You needed Mbeumo to hit the ground running, and he's not, unfortunately. And I'm just a little bit concerned about it. I am a little bit concerned about it. Because you've got to score goals if you want to stay in the division. And it's Mbeumo's getting the chances. And, you know, he's not even getting his shots on target. It's just not acceptable. And you're not scoring many goals. You're going to need to take your chances when they come. I think that's something. If you're an owner of Toney in FPL, yes, he's going to take the penalties and maybe he'll get enough and maybe still good enough value for you. But for me, he's a deep lying forward at the moment. He's not playing like a striker, like the striker that you knew of him last season. So I just think that's something to be wary of, guys. You know, if you're an FPL manager, and for Brentford, look, they're not conceding many. That's great, but again, at home, let me show you this. At home, if you look where Brentford are, you see how deep they're playing here. You know, they're shooting down. By the way, Brighton, that's what they want to get to. You know, they want to dominate games. They want to dominate possession, but they're going to be very structured, I think, this season. And it's working for them so far. I just wonder, once the kind of games start to fall and there's a couple of defeats where it's not going your way, I would get a little bit concerned about Brentford because you've got to score goals. And finally, Liverpool versus Leeds. We've spoken about Harvey Elliott. Only 1 or 2 things on this one. First of all, Thiago's role in the game. You guys know how I love Thiago and the way that he passes the ball. But actually, the thing I wanted to focus on there were his recoveries in the game. He was absolutely brilliant. 10 recoveries in the game. And that's not something that we talk about. And it was something actually we were kind of... it was sort of thrown against him during the season last season. But for him to do the job that it was, you got Fabinho in there as well, so he can kind of go and read and nick it instead of being exposed like he was when he was playing a deeper role. I think that's really, really interesting from him. Cracking game, getting on the ball, lovely passes as well. You know, he's winning his duels there as well, which is very, very interesting and not something that we've seen from him much as well. 4 tackles as well. Really good stuff from him. Here's one just to maybe finish off with, not to wind up Liverpool fans, but I just want to know what you think about it. Mane had 10 shots in the game, and he missed 2 big chances as well. I'm going to say a sentence here. It's a question for you guys. Let me know in the comments. Is Mane selfish? And is that okay? Is Mane selfish? And is that okay? Because there were quite a few occasions where he sort of opted to shoot instead of passing the ball. It's been quite a while now since of course he scored a goal. He had an XG of 1.65 in the game, so should have scored kind of over a goal, which obviously can only score one or 2. But for someone his quality, you would hope that he would do a little bit better. And is that okay for you guys? Because, you know, when it comes to the average positions of Liverpool, you know, he's the furthest forward player these days, you know. I mean, he always kind of has been that guy threatening front and forward. I thought Jota super selfless in this game, and I think he's kind of the vision that everyone has of Jota is completely wrong. He really is kind of, yes, he's got that ability to sort of spin around and get in the box, but he's actually very, very selfless and didn't get in the box much at all. You can see it there. Salah as well, 100 goals for him. What a player. What a player he is. And I like, again, looking at those average positions and then you see the goal. What I love is the movement of them, you know, and it comes from these two here. Like, these 2 centre-backs just start everything because there's confidence to press forward. And it's huge. And then the movement of Salah is just a joy. You know, the fluidity of Trent getting down the line, and then how difficult is it to pick up? If you imagine you're defending and you can see everything, and you think you've got Salah here on this right-hand side. You think you've got Salah here on this right-hand side, and then all of a sudden he just sort of spins away from you, and then goes forward. You know, what are you supposed to do with stuff like that? I just think it's class. Like and I think it's something where last season, that sort of low defensive block that they were struggling to kind of break down, there was also that concern the other way. I think they can be a bit more gung-ho, Liverpool, this season. Concerns of which I had spoken about, and I don't want to be right on this one, but it's the concern over, you know, injuries and how that could hurt them. Let's see, you know, especially with the Champions League coming in. But I mean, let's finish this video talking about Salah, because the guy's just a bit of a joke. And I just like his heat map kind of just highlights that movement that he has. It's just lovely. Like, you know, see what I mean? You know, he's going to start off right and he might dart in. All these kind of positions that he picks up, they're just pressure points. If you're a defender, it is a nightmare, because you know that he's going to dart inside. Like, if he's starting here, he might make this little dart in here to these horrible positions. Obviously out here, you're one-on-one, so you're concerned as well. But then when Trent gets forward, him getting into this area as well, these are just dangerous positions, really, really dangerous positions. You know, you put that alongside his average positions and you think, how is he scoring this many goals? But when Liverpool are working as a solid machine, they are a really, really interesting team to watch. And Salah is... Someone asked me, you know, who's the most important player for Liverpool on ESPN last week? And it has to be Salah, doesn't it? You know, it's Salah or Van Dijk, both of them integral here, but Salah with the way that he allows them to play, the movement of him and his starting positions are just a nightmare. Liverpool created 28 chances in the game, took 30 shots during the match as well, so maybe they could go and score a few more goals as well. But it's one of those where for Leeds, I think you've always got to be wary of judging your team, your season by games like this, you know, sending off being a part of it. And when you go down to 10 men, you kind of have to double down on this sort of style that you've got, because he's so far down the line with it. It's not games like this where your season will be defined. It's going to be the games against the mid-table sides. So once you've got Liverpool, you've got Man United out of the way, I think, you know, I know Leeds fans have not got a problem with it, but I think you kind of just you know, you sort of hang in there, not even hang in there, just wait for these games against the mid-table teams. If they're sussing you out, then there is a concern. But otherwise, I don't think there needs to be a concern at all. Right, guys, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll quickly have a look at the chat. There was a few waves at the start, wasn't there? Do you want me to... Oh, we had a super chat as well. There we go. Mamasini. CR7 saved Man United some blushes. That was a draw. I mean, it was a draw at one stage, a couple of stages, but that's why he brought him in. That's the whole point. Odegaard's work rate was amazing. That's a good point. With Odegaard, I think that's the point of the other two. You know, you can allow him to just concentrate on dropping deep and picking up the ball and starting to create those bits and pieces. And that's why I was talking about Aubameyang. There's got to be a little bit of a concern there that if Odegaard is dropping deep to do those things, I thought Pepe was great as well. Aubameyang needs to move a little bit more. He needs to be involved just that little bit more. But anyway, right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to subscribe to the channel, that would be lovely. If you want to hit the like button, that'd be amazing. If we could hit 2,000 likes on this would be class. And I think I'm going to do my final season predictions on Wednesday. Now that the transfer window's gone, I'm going to reassess it and put my final prediction table out there for all to see. So I'm going to do that on Wednesday. Might do it live, might not. Anyway, we'll find out soon enough. Have a great week, guys. Hope you had a great weekend. And I'll see you all soon.